National Fishermen and Pacific Marine Expo are proud supporters of the Galley Stories podcast, as we make similar efforts to highlight the people and topics that define commercial fishing. You can see what that looks like in print and online all year long, as well as every November in Seattle when this community comes together at PME. Check out nationalfisherman.com and pacificmarineexpo.com to learn more.
Welcome back to Galley Stories, guys. Sorry for a few days late here. Been traveling, getting some more recordings done for you. Brought to you by Alaska Brewing Company out of Juneau, Alaska. Check out their new Wildness beer. It is actually probably my favorite. It was always for Alaska Amber for me, but this Wildness is really setting a craze. So get out and find a retailer near you that is fortunate enough to carry it. And if you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to look us up on Instagram or Facebook. You can always write in with email at galleystories@gmail.com, and we do now have a gear store. You can actually rock some Galley Stories gear. Attached at the bottom of every episode and found in our Instagram profile. Thanks. Here we go. Fair disclosure on this one, guys. When Andy and I sat down to record this, we actually were at a event that Galley Stories was attending, Music, Mass, and Lobster Traps out in Maine, and we could only find a corner in an abandoned church, essentially, to record. So there's a lot of feedback here, a little bit of an echo, but I believe that his interview and the genuine way in which he presents himself is incredible. Not to mention, cool ass accent.
Hello guys, welcome to another installment of Galley Stories, Stories of the Bering Sea and beyond. I am your host, Mark Kaler. Today we have Captain Andy Hawke with us from Boothbay, Maine. How are we doing today, Andy?
Oh, not too bad. Doing real good.
Excellent, excellent. Let's just dive right into it. Where were you born and what was your introduction into commercial fishing?
I was born right here in Boothbay Harbor, Maine, over the St. Andrews Hospital, and introduced to the lobster industry back with my uncles, my family. Yeah, actually both sides of my family went fishing. So that's how I got started at a very young age, probably 8 years old or so. I went with my uncle, and throwing bait overboard at the seagulls and crushing sea urchins and getting bit by lobsters and crabs and all that good stuff. So that's how I got started there.
At 8 years old?
At 8 years old, yeah.
Now, was that consistent or just your introduction?
He would come in and get me, he'd go out earlier in the morning, then come and get me and take me out for a couple hours to get me started. So then as time went on, I just kept going to summers with him. So we just did it in summers. So I stayed over our family place over in Christmas Cove, and that's how I got all started in it.
So talk me through the progression. I mean, how did you progress to where you are today from that point? I mean, and getting a license here is a little different than a lot of places.
Yep. It is today. Back then when we got started, I think I was about 11 years old when I got my first. 1974, I believe, was when I actually first got my own license, and anyone could get one back then. It was, I don't know, I can't remember quite what it was, 10, 12 bucks back then. So that's how I got started there. And
what did that license get you?
it got me just to haul lobster traps, to sell lobsters on my own, and to sell crabs, if I wanted to. It's a lobster and crab license, what it is. So we could, you could start selling your own lobsters and getting your own slips and getting your own money and putting it in the bank and buying bicycle or something like that, or a skateboard or whatever the case might be. And so we took old traps and stuff and put them together out of spruce trees, nailed them together, and we actually knit our own heads. My uncles taught me how to knit our own heads and stuff and make our own traps, and that's how we all got started when there was a young age, because there was really no money. I think the first lobster I sold was, if I remember right, about $1.10 a pound. So
which in 74.
74. Yeah, don't quote me on the $1.10, but it's right around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
back
you're
then.
11 years old.
Yeah. Actually, me and my cousin that first year went together in a 14-foot skiff that his dad, which would be my uncle, one of my other uncles, I had a bunch of uncles, that built for him. And then the next year, one of my uncles there, Edward, we built a skiff, and I saved enough money to build my own skiff and get a used outboard for it. So I went on my own.
How many pots were you fishing?
Oh,
at that
geez,
time?
not many. Geez, we'd have like 12, 15. And we'd fish them all in singles, haul them by hand. They were all wooden. If you didn't put enough weight in them, they'd float off. So you had to put bricks and rocks and everything else in them to sink them so they'd soak up. So
Do you remember on your first slip how many lobster you delivered?
geez, I don't know. I can't remember.
You have
Not
to
many.
remember
I
that.
don't know. Probably 2 or 3 or something like that.
Now, back then, did you have to track every lobster? Did you have to keep
Nope.
it in a slip?
Well, just the deal would give you a slip and then give you, cash money with it. If you brought in, 5 pounds of lobsters, you'd get probably $6 or whatever the case might be at the time of it. Of course, my uncle would give me enough bait, so I didn't pay for bait then.
Nice. So talk me through the progression, from that stage to moving on to how you went up to this next skiff, and then
Oh yeah.
walk me all the way through it.
Walk you all the way through. Here we go. Well, we had a skiff. We'd haul around the shore by hand, and each year we'd end up building, maybe 20 more traps, and you keep building up. You get 25 the next year, because then you'd be, a year older, and be another year older. You'd build up and start getting into 100, 150 traps or something, and we'd haul them by hand for a long time. Geez, all through grade school and up into high school and everything you hauled by hand in the summers around the shore. You didn't fish very deep water. You'd see the bottom most of the time and caught what you caught, and do that. And then eventually, I ended up getting a Seaway. I made enough money, which was a 19-foot boat, and got a little hauler on the top of it, on the side of it, and ran off the outboard. And we got that, and of course we had to build more traps. You get up to 200 traps, and there was no trap limit then either. So you kept building, and kept going along like that. And of course, when you get out of school, you start thinking about getting bigger boats and stuff. So after a few years after that, then we built a boat. My uncle helped me build I ordered a 33-foot Young Brothers, and we put a used motor in it. It was just a hull, bare hull, nothing in it, just a hull. So we had to have a rudder made, and we put the engine in it, and he taught me how to do all that stuff. So
It's emotional.
it is.
It's your family heritage, and
It is. It was quite a time doing it. It was, I had two uncles that helped me all the time. They, built quite a cabin on it and put hydraulic collars in it, and just kept building traps and building up, and eventually I got offshore more and fishing, year round and everything. And
so your uncles taught you all the mechanicals.
everything.
Can I ask where was Dad?
My father was he was an electrician. He was in the engineering. He never really went lobstering.
Okay.
So
So you took after your uncles.
I took after my uncles.
Did your dad do your wiring?
He helped me a little bit here and there. Yeah. He helped me.
Okay, so let's continue the progression. So now you've got some mechanical experience. You've got your first larger boat, and you were able to go offshore with that one a little bit further, right?
Yep. So we had a cabin then, so it helped you in the weather more, and you could fish more weather, and then you got up to, I don't know, 500-600 traps. Started to fish pairs more. If I started to fish more strings, which you put a buoy on each end, and you'd have, some people fish 5, 6, 8
So
traps.
you just tie those together
You tie them together, yeah.
with a buoy on each end.
Yeah.
Now,
on each end, you
Were
just
you a one-man crew at this point? Were you...
a lot of the time growing up, and then when I I started to take someone with me quite a bit, probably about, I was 22, 23 years old or something, and someone else started to help me. We went harder, and, you get up to, back then, you have 1,000 traps,
Yeah.
Had quite a few traps, and strung around, went pretty hard. Yeah, fish deeper water, you know, you start getting off a little bit far. No, not too far, you know, 4 or 5 miles from shore or something.
On a single engine?
Yep, single engine. Yep, single engine. Open cabin, the weather would get at you. Yep.
So, progressing on to the boat you're at now, how many boats were in between? And it was always a step up, right?
It was always a step up, yeah. Well, I had that third 3-footer. I built that, in 84. Geez, it was 2004 when I ordered a bigger boat. So we a lot of things happened in between there. You had families, and I had a family, and built a house and all that stuff. So, but before I went up to the 40-foot boat, it was
same one.
Yeah. Well, now I got another one after that, but there was a lot of rules and regulations starting in between there.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk. That's so when we had the 33-foot boat, the major increase back in, don't quote me, I think it was 86 they went up, and then they went up again like 88. We had a major increase. They changed over. We have a conservation law, which a V-notch on the right-hand flipper, they changed over to that. So we had a conservation law on that, and that worked its way up, through the 90s. And then
Explain what that is.
well, on the lobster has flippers in the back, 5 flippers there, and then on the right-hand side of the middle one, you put a notch in it, and that on females, you can't sell that lobster because that's a breeding lobster. It's something that Maine has done which is great for the industry. It keeps it reproducing, so we have a fishery every.
So harvest only males.
Well, harvest females too, but if it has one of those notches, or if it has eggs on the bottom of the lobster, you can't. That's illegal to sell.
So you pull up a lobster today that does not have a notch and has eggs.
You notch it.
You notch it.
You notch it.
Because
So
that is a breeding
that is
active
breeding
female.
active female lobster. Yeah.
And then that protects her so a little bit of pain for a second, and for the rest of her life, she's a free bird.
She's a free bird, and hopefully she mates out and makes more lobsters.
Yeah.
So
Now,
it's good. It's good.
is there any size that you're not allowed to keep?
Right now, our measure is 3 1/4 from the eye socket to the back for the small side, and it's 5 inches for the oversized. So you can keep anything between that 3 1/4 and 5 inches.
But over 5,
Over 5, throw them back,
Hey.
male or female. Yeah.
do you still notch those females then?
I
Or
do.
You do.
Yeah,
Just to protect them.
I do. Yeah, I always notch try to notch everything you can.
So in '84, when you got that boat and you were having 600 traps, did you you're up to 1,000? Or?
Yeah, we got up to almost 1,000 traps.
So when did the regulations?
Not an 84, but you.
Yeah, building.
Yeah.
When did the regulations come in on a certain number of traps, and how did that affect you?
Let's say, 96 they started to really, I believe they put a 1,200 trap limit in there
Per boat.
per boat. Yeah.
Were you over that?
No, I never fished over that to begin with anyway. I mean, there's guys that did. They went hard. They were hardworking fishermen,
You saying you're not a hard-working fisherman?
Well, I mean, everybody's hardworking, but I just didn't want to fish that many traps,
Yeah.
It was, a lot of guys like to at one point, and
How long does it take you to get through 1,000 traps?
you do it in 3 days. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay. So
But that was bad.
that regulation didn't really affect you then, as far as the number of traps?
Not 96 when they started. I believe it was 96. I quote my memory on it, but and then they kept putting it down. Then they went to an 800 trap limit, and they made what they call zone lines in the state of Maine, which it was like voting lines, and you stayed like in these zone lines. You could fish like 50 or 49% of your gear on the other side, but of these zone lines. It's a rule that the state had up and down the coast. So we got 7 of them.
It'd be like, to put it so that everybody understands, it's like having a new state line. Not as a state, but as an area that can be fished. So like
Right.
an A zone, a B zone,
That's exactly
C
what they
zone.
are. Yeah, A, B,
Okay.
C, D, E, F, and G we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So similar to a lot of other fisheries. So you could fish 800 traps in A and 800 traps in B, or
No, 800. As time went, it went from 12 and down to 8, and then you could only fish 49% if you cross the other line. So if your dedicated zone, like our dedicated zone here is E, you could only fish the 800 at that time, and then only fish 300 and whatever traps across. But our zone ended up going 2 more steps, so we went down to 600. So we're the only zone in the state of Maine that has 600 traps as of today, and the rest of the state of Maine has 800. So people that fish in our zone has to drop. You have to fish the most restricted as they made the rules. So if somebody wanted to come in our zone, they have to drop to 600 even in their zone. Then they can bring.
no grandfather in. You already own the traps. You already own the boat.
Yeah.
No matter how big and fancy your boat was, you're 600 traps.
Now in zone E, yep.
How
No matter what.
can you transfer?
Transfer to another
Go to
zone.
yeah, sure. You're in E. Can you go to D?
If you can take 49% and you have to double tag them, the state come up with tags that keep track of us, right? You can go over and fish on each. You have to put down on your license what zones you fish, but you only can fish 49% of those in another
Of those 600.
of the 600. So you
But someone from D can fish 49% of their 800 in E?
no, they have to drop to 600
Okay.
and only fish the 300 over there, or 302, whatever it is, and the 209.
Okay.
They can fit. Yeah, it's the most restricted.
Okay.
They made it the most restricted on our trap fishing. Yeah,
Well, when you think of lobster, you think of Maine lobster.
correct. Yeah.
That's been built over years. I was in the Maine Lobster Museum yesterday, actually, or the Maritime Museum. They have a lobster section there, and they had paintings of guys spearing lobster from land.
Spearing lobsters.
Yeah, they were just plucking them right out of.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, no, it's there hanging in the wall.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
the early settlers were able to get them just like right off the shore,
Yeah,
just
well,
right
they
there.
always claim they used to pick them off the shore.
Yeah,
Yeah, years ago. I mean, I hear my uncles or my grandmother talking about, even my grandfather and stuff. They used to have smacks come around and pick up the lobsters, which
Have what?
they call them smacks, the lobster smacks. So they used back in those 20s and 30s and 40s or whatever it might be, back in there or earlier. I mean, they'd haul and get a few lobsters, and then the lobster smack would come around and buy the lobsters right from the dock, and then they'd go to the next family, maybe the next round of cove and stuff like that. I mean, these are all stories. I never saw it, but these are all stories I was told. It's pretty cool that, but as the fishing progressed, you got dealers that you sell to, and
There's a lot of those, huh? There's like different wharfs and just right there in
is.
Booth Bay. I think I
Yeah.
passed 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, we got quite a few right here. Each dock has, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 boats, 20 boats, some of them might. I mean, there's quite a few. There's quite a few fishermen, some guys fish inshore, some guys fish offshore, and goes back and forth. Yeah.
So before I get into some other questions for you, the key questions that I always ask, there's a couple of things I'd like to know. I'd like to know some more about your uncles, and some of the stories that they told you.
Well, I
Do
mean,
you have an example? I know you do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't fish like we do today. I mean, they only fished back then, 100 traps or 120 traps or 150 traps or whatever the case might be. And they just fished around the shore, wooden gear and everything. And and back then we did everything ourselves. We built, well, some of my uncles bought some Novi boats, actually brought them down and used them, but we did a lot. We built a lot of our own traps. We put our own engines in our boats, and we repaired our boats. I mean, I helped my uncles, put ribs in boats, steam ribs, back when I was real young. I was small, I could crawl around. He'd steam them up, and I'd be in there holding them, trying to replace some of the ribs. They were just small boats,
What's been your greatest experience and memory on the water?
Well, hauling with my uncles and going out fishing with them and having kids, taking them out and teaching them and stuff.
Yeah, your son fishes now, right?
My oldest one still fishing, yeah.
Yep.
Yep, he is. Yep, he goes hard. He's a good fisherman.
And what about your worst experience on the water?
Getting broke down, getting caught in weather, thunderstorms and stuff like that. I had one when my skiff, when I was small, I can remember it blew up on my place. I filled my skiff right full of water trying to get back home, and it was kind of sketchy. And one other time I fell overboard out of it and trying to get back aboard.
By yourself?
Yeah. I fell overboard out of a 19-foot boat I had, the seaway that I did there, outboard boat. I fell over one time there and getting back aboard that. And, a few little things like that, I guess.
Now, safety-wise, do you guys do, I'm talking about gear, PFDs, personal flotation devices or anything? Is that common over here, or is it not, or what's the?
It's actually not. I mean, we have life rafts that we have to have inspected by the Coast Guard every year that keep on the boat, and because survival suits for the cold water if your boat, something happened like that. As far as wearing anything, hauling, no, we don't have no flotation really when we're hauling. Just set oil skins and haul. It's all in the boat.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has the sea given to you?
Oh, it's given me a great life. I mean, I've been a lobsterman my whole life, so I mean, I love being out there and hauling traps and seeing the environment. I mean, it's great, if you see fish and lobsters and whales or whatever the case might be, dolphin, and stuff going by. It's beautiful.
This is a beautiful place. Yeah.
It's beautiful, So it's.
What is it taking away from you? What is the sea taking away from you?
Well, I don't know. I can't really think of.
She just gives and gives and gives.
Well, I don't know. Well, I get pretty sore on the body hauling, I guess.
Yeah. So, for young kids getting into lobstering today, is it possible for them anymore?
It is. Yeah. No, they go. They go on an apprentice plan. So they get a student license, and then they have to log 1,000 hours, I think it is, in 200 days. And so they know they're going and learn the business. It could be under me, it could be under someone else.
It's a literal apprenticeship. They're working with somebody.
Yeah, that's what it is, an apprenticeship.
So when you get one of those on your boat, do you pay them?
Oh yeah. I haven't. The only one I've apprenticed really is my youngest boy. He went with me.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, after you finish your apprentice, you're not guaranteed a license, are you? Isn't there a limited number, or how does that work?
No, you get it. Yeah, you have to buy it before you're 18, and if you go to college, you have to. I believe you can go under the student license, then you have to buy your regular license before you get out of school.
And what happens if you're an adult? You're a grown man and you're doing your apprenticeship. What happens to you then?
They go on a waiting list. Yeah. They only allow X amount of, like right now in our zone, we got 5 people go out, then they'll allow 1 in. So they're kind of working, getting the number of fishermen down. Yeah, that's how they go on a waiting list. For a while the waiting list was pretty big, but I think it's thinned up a little bit as the age of lobstermen's a little older, you know. But there's youth getting into it, which is good. I see a lot of youth, you know, getting into it, which, you know, I see some kids out in some seaways and some skiffs and going with other people, you know. So there is some, you know.
Are the days of being 10 years old out on your own boat, pulling your pot by hand gone?
10 is pretty young today, you know. I mean, you know, 14, 15, they're out there, you know.
What advice would you give to anyone listening now that would be just thrilled to get into the industry?
To get into the industry? Mm-hmm. Well, you got to love it, for one thing. It isn't one of those, it's for me, it's been a way of life. So it's, you know, it's what I was brought up into. Mm-hmm. So it's what you did. Yeah, what you did.
And you've seen a lot of changes over all the years.
Oh, quite a lot of changes. Yeah, especially
you had more pots at 18 than you have today. Or 20.
Yeah, 23, 24. I had more than I had today. Yeah. And the pots have changed. You know, the traps have changed. You know, we used to use wooden gear and, you know, build them, and now it's all wire. It's all wire gear. So.
Does anyone use the old wooden ones anymore?
Boy, I don't know of anyone.
You see them all over the place.
Yeah. I imagine there's someone. I really don't know, but most everybody's all wire. They're pretty efficient trap. Yeah. They're all nice traps.
Okay, Andy, I appreciate you taking the time. Do you have any final thoughts for us today? Anything you'd like to say to friends, family, or anybody listening?
Well, it's eat lobster. You know?
All right, guys.
It's good and good for you.
It is really good. You know, just before we sign off here, this is our second trip out here, my wife and I, right? My significant other and I. She hates it when I call her my wife because we're not married, but been together long enough. But every time we come out here, she has to get the twins. It's 2 lobsters, fully cooked lobsters. Doesn't need anything else. Doesn't need butter. Doesn't just give her the 2 cooked lobsters. She calls them the twins.
Twins.
And that's what she's gonna have at least one time while we're out here. So.
Perfect. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and pay attention these next few weeks for additional East Coast stories from Galley Stories, the Bering Sea and beyond. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Galley Stories. We hope you like what the net brought in. Please leave us a review on iTunes. Whether you like it or not, we're not fishing for compliments. Look us up on Facebook and Twitter too, and reach out to us at galleystories@gmail.com.